Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in. Have a great show planned for you this week. Later on, I'll have with me Jason Koegler, who's the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at West Liberty University. We'll be talking about all things up on the hilltop and talking to him a little about what maybe some future plans might be for West Liberty University. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. And I want to start off talking about something that a guest on one of the shows here recently talked about. That was Phyllis Riccadonna from the American Red Cross. And that is that their blood drive will be this Monday, January 27th, at Wheeling Island Casino. That'll be from 11 o'clock in the morning until 5:30 in the afternoon. And very touched that they dedicated this year's blood drive to the memory of my dad, Jim Bordas. And our firm sponsored that blood drive for a number of years. It's very important to be able to give that blood so that people need blood transfusions or platelets or some other type of blood product, that it's available for them to receive it. I know over the last 18 months of my dad's life, he needed a number of transfusions as he was battling leukemia. There were times where the blood supply was very low and he didn't know if he'd be able to get it. Fortunately, he did, and that was even in a major hospital. So very important to do that if you're someone that's in a position to be able to give blood. Go out and do that this coming Monday at Wheeling Island Casino, 11 to 5:30. It takes less than an hour. They fill out the forms, and you get like kind of a free health screening, so to speak, while you're at it too, because they'll do some checks on you and things. So get out and do that if you can. Another thing here that's going on locally that I want to talk about, and that is that the Wheeling City Council apparently has received a letter from the Freedom from Religion group complaining about the fact that they are saying prayers at the beginning of city council meetings. Now, I'm familiar with this group as, I've lost track of time now, maybe 10 years or so ago. We volunteered to help a little bit with the city of Steubenville, who got a letter from this same organization, who's out not anywhere near around here, out in the Midwest, complaining about their logo, because Franciscan University, of course, one of the major parts of Steubenville, and there's a building with a cross on the top of it. That was part of the city of Steubenville's logo. And this Freedom from Religion group, they call themselves, didn't like that either. And so now they're complaining about the prayer at the beginning of the Wheeling City Council meetings. And I want to just talk about what exactly our United States Constitution says. And the First Amendment to the Constitution says that, and I'm going to read it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. All right, now let's take that in two parts. I'm going to start with the second part, prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So government isn't allowed to prevent you from exercising your religion. And I don't think that's what they're complaining about here. They're not saying that anyone's being prohibited from exercising their religion. But the first part, shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion. And of course, that comes about because of England having established the Church of England, that all people in England were supposed to follow this church that was set by England. So that's kind of how the idea of this separation of church and state came to be. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we can never talk about religion or we can never talk about God in our public sector. That's not at all what that means. And for groups like this, Freedom from Religion, to complain about the fact that it's simply because a prayer is being said, and in fact, they've even, they're saying, well, they're all Christian prayers. Well, not exactly. They've had somebody that was non-Christian to start the prayer, things like that. But, it's a major problem. We have on our money things like "In God We Trust." One nation under God is something that's on so many of our things. Our founding fathers never intended our country to be free from religion. In fact, far from it. The point of the matter is that our elected officials can't force you to be a part of some particular religion. In fact, city council, even if they start with the prayer, they're not forcing you to say the prayer. They're not forcing you to do anything. And I think we need to get back to where people are able to say prayers and be able to do it, and we're able to talk about God. And I think that if we're able to do that, our society as a whole will be much better. And no one should tell you what God you should pray to. If you have a particular God or a particular religion, so be it. And if somebody else, if I'm in someone else's company and they're saying a prayer under some different other religion, I'm not offended by that. I respect the fact that, hey, whatever it is that they're doing, if they're praying in such a manner to try to be a better person and to do things in the right way, then I appreciate that they're trying to do that, even if I may not be of the same religion. And I may not say the prayer with them even, because I may not even know the prayer if it's of some other type of religion. But I respect the fact they are, and I just wait until they're done and am very respectful during that time. We need to get back to that. It's a matter of, I think, not only respect, it's a matter of when you look at what our Constitution says and what it doesn't say, I think people really need to take that to heart. So I just want to mention that because I saw that this group is making its presence felt here again in the Ohio Valley, and I think it's got a lot of people concerned about that. Give you a little legal tip here too while we're at it, and that's a lot of news going on about the impeachment trial of President Trump, and I'm not going to get on all that because there's plenty of places that you can go to for that on the different news channels and major outlets from around the country. But I do want to remind people of this, that the Constitution requires a 2/3 vote to convict someone who has been impeached. Now, a lot of people are saying, hey, they're trying to impeach President Trump. No, he's already been impeached. The House of Representatives did that already by voting to impeach him. And that basically is bringing the charges. It's almost like an indictment in the criminal court system. That's already been done, so he's been charged. But then the trial takes place in the Senate, of course, with Chief Justice Roberts presiding as the judge. And the Senate is basically the jurors. Of course, there's 100 of them. And as I said, it takes a 2/3 vote to convict. And some people are saying, why does it take 2/3? Why is it not just, 51% or whatever it may be? But I want to remind everyone that in a criminal case in court, the vote actually has to be unanimous. In order to convict someone of a crime, it has to be a 100% a unanimous vote. If even one person holds out, then you can't convict. It's either a hung jury, or if everybody votes to acquit, then it's acquit. But the verdict either way has to be unanimous, in other words, in a criminal court. So here it's 2/3, so that burden's not even as high as it is in a criminal court in order to convict someone. But with that being said, everything that's happened so far with respect to this trial in terms of voting on the rules, et cetera, has gone right along party lines. It's been 53-47. The Republicans have 53 senators, the Democrats 47. That's the way the vote's gone. So basically, another 20, if all the Democrats, would stay together, and then they would have to convince 20 Republican senators to swing the other way to vote to convict. So just very, very unlikely that that's going to happen, because all these votes have been so strongly along party lines. And but it is something. This is only the 3rd time this has happened in the history of our country where a president's been impeached. So it is of historical significance, but I don't think it's likely that a conviction is going to result from it, particularly the way things have gone so far in terms of the rules votes and things like that, but worth keeping an eye on. I'll give you a quote here as well, with all the things that are going on. And one of the things that Chief Justice Roberts had to say to the House managers, which are the ones that are presenting the charges, and also to President Trump's defense team, is he had to remind them, hey, this is the Senate here. Let's be civil here about what we're doing. Let's stop with the name calling, stop with the language. Really a little bit embarrassing that a judge would have to do that, particularly the Chief Justice, but he did have to do that. And so I picked this particular quote from Jeb Bush, of course, the former governor of Florida, brother of George W. Bush, son of George H.W. Bush, our former presidents. And Jeb Bush said this: treating people fairly and with civility is not a bad thing. It would be good for our country if political leaders actually took that to heart. And a lot of truth to that, and certainly hope that we can see more of that from not only our political leaders, but everyone that's maybe in the public eye, to act with a little bit more civility, with more fairness toward getting a good result, not necessarily just trying to get perhaps a partisan result. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that story, and a good quote there from Jeb Bush. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll have with me Jason Koegler, the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at West Liberty University. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Bob Huggins. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
Looks like a bad one's coming. Yeah. Right?
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's no different. I have with me Jason Koegler, who's the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at West Liberty University. Jason, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you back here. And a couple of duties added to your responsibilities, I think, since you were last here. Now also in charge of government and community relations as of last fall. So some added chores there for you.
Absolutely. It's something that, in terms of government relations, we've never really defined or had. It's always been the president's responsibility to be the advocate in Charleston. But the president's a really busy person, usually. So, taking like my relationships that I have in the community and in Charleston, it seemed like to be like a no-brainer, and it's really working out well. We just had our first legislative breakfast in December, like before the legislative session. We invited a lot of our local legislators, came up to campus, spent the morning, and we got to really do a really nice show and tell what's going on the hilltop. And
you know, people may not realize, you know, why it's so important. You know, they just think, well, look, West Liberty's a state university, and so they just get all this money, the state funds it, but not actually the case.
No, far from it. We are a state-funded university, and we report to the Higher Education Policy Commission, which is a subset of the legislature. And however, the funding of higher education in general in the country has dramatically changed over the past few decades, and it's West Virginia, because we have a lot of schools for our population, it's even more, we feel it even more. So in 1980, our operating budget was funded 60% by the state through taxpayer money, and this year that number is 18%.
Oh
So
wow, quite a drop.
It's quite a drop, and we need to balance our budget and also invest in new programs and you know, always meet our mission to create young men and women to go out and contribute to their community and go and do great things. But it becomes harder and harder when you have to balance your budget by raising tuition or fundraising, basically. So every year that that number goes down, the burden is placed on the shoulders of our students, which you know, is not sustainable, and we don't want that to happen. So.
You know, I was looking at this book that you all put out recently, the Top of the Hill Special Edition called Rise, and you know, and looking at this, you know, some of the numbers and the charts and graphs that are in here, it's pretty remarkable to see the success that West Liberty has continued to have that people may not be aware of when you look at the growth, even, you know, in terms of the just looking at some of these here, the publications that are put out, the percentage of on-campus students that has gone up in the last couple of years, the enrollment, the graduate programs, I mean, all these different things that are happening here. The international students, I mean, that I would have never even thought would be at West Liberty. So
Right.
all these good things that are happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know where to begin, but you hit it right on the head. We are in the midst of really a question of what is higher education around the world. We are an outlier, especially locally, in terms of growth and impacting student lives and thus the community. You know, I really want to go back 4 years, the arrival of President Stephen Greiner, our current president, and you know, you hear the quote of right person at the right time, that the right person will come into your life at the right time. Well, he is totally that leader for us. We are able to he was immediately aware of the climate and the feeling of a family atmosphere at West Liberty, and he did so by which most presidents should do, is the first constituency base that he talked to. It wasn't the local government or the Rotary Club or even donors. It was the students, and he just opened his office and basically surveyed them for his first 6 months or so, and realized where we were and where we needed to go, and the rest is reflected in this book. Our enrollment is increasing. Our endowment has increased 44% over that time. Our graduate programs, we're nearing 10 programs. In 2009, when we became a university, we had one. That in the graduate enrollment now has eclipsed 300. International students, we have over 85 international students representing 25 countries this year. And like you said, I don't think many people know that because they're kind of stuck up on the hill. Yeah. But what an impact, you know, a program like that has on our student body. We're increasing internships, our reach into the community with our downtown center. The Highlands is still strong. Our athletic teams have increased. We added men's soccer. We added acrobatics and tumbling. People like Gary West have invested in new facilities like our West Family Athletic Complex, which has allowed our track and field program to increase from about 30 to over 100 in a couple of years. And that's the other thing, when Dr. Greiner came to campus, he asked me why those kids were running up and down 88. He seemed dangerous to him. And he said, what's going on there? And I said, well, that's our track team, because we've never had a track. So we call it the West Liberty Way. It's getting a lot from a little. We don't have millions of dollars to invest, but we have committed donors, committed benefactors and alumni. And by being creative and smart and investing in dorms that they might not have air conditioning, but you might be able to bring and meet a need of a student, things are allowed to blossom. And I think that being in tune with our students plays a major role in that.
Some of them have air conditioning, don't they?
Sorry, that's not what I was supposed to be talking about today, but most of them have air conditioning. We actually, that's one of our points of pride here. We have a lot of new housing coming up right across the street from campus. We have some a public-private partnership was allowed more of a condo space. The great people at Panhandle purchased an apartment complex at the bottom of the hill there next to Domino's. Have increased that. We've gone into a partnership with them where we provide student housing there. So actually, we're one of the few campuses in the state that has actually increased our online residency. So it's good.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll continue to speak with Jason Koegler about things going on at West Liberty and the search for a new president. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Tractor trailers are some of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. There are federal rules for load sizes, driver's hours, and maintenance for a reason. When big rigs don't follow these rules, entire families can be torn apart. We have the talent and the resources to take on these large companies. Hopefully, through our work, families are being helped and trucking companies are getting the message about safety. Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Hi, Banks did great today. He looks great after his spa day.
For being such a good boy, we'll take these two.
Great.
Thanks to my free Kasasa cashback checking account from Belmont Savings Bank, my Kasasa cash is paying for my dog's treats.
Kasasa pays you cash back on everyday debit card purchases, plus refunds on ATM withdrawal fees nationwide. Open your account today at Belmont Savings Bank to take back banking and enjoy monthly cash rewards with Kasasa.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest, Jason Koegler, who's the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at West Liberty University. And Jason, you mentioned about Dr. Greiner being the right person at the right time when he came in a few years back to be the president, but now he's going to be heading out, heading toward retirement, it sounds like. And so the search is underway for a new president. How does that affect the university, and what's that timeline look like, and what would that person probably look like?
Sure, I think, it definitely has an impact on the university. We have over 300 employees with faculty and staff, but it's also an exciting time. And one of the great things about Dr. Greiner is that some people would retire and you get an interim situation. It might take a couple of years, actually, that we've seen in this process, but he's committed to stick it out until we hire someone, and he's actually going to be helping with his input. He's not a decision maker, but our Board of Governors, headed by Rich Lucas, has created a search committee. They've already started working. They put the call out, not only locally, but through the Chronicle of Higher Education all over the country. And there are a lot of people looking for presidencies. When you really look at it, there's not that many colleges and universities out there. So I do know that we have a lot of great applicants, and I believe the deadline is at the end of this month. So we should, if all things go well, we should be announcing a new president here in the spring, and with a start date of July 1st. That's the goal.
Oh, that's good. One of the things that falls under your umbrella as well, and your job and role there at West Liberty is Topper Station, which people may have think of that, primarily as on Comcast here locally, Channel 14, but there's a lot more to it than that in terms of this new kind of concept that came about last year called Topper Station. Yeah,
something I'm really excited about and passionate about, but we've had this great asset, and the community has had this great asset in Channel 14. It's been on Comcast cable, over 100,000 homes in the area. still on Channel 14. But what we found is that in terms of the academic element of Channel 14, we want to stay relevant. And what I mean by that is just like WTRF is, and a lot of media companies, they're putting a lot of their eggs into social media, into streaming, into more of on-demand, because we know on campus with our constituents, our customers, our students, you ask a student at West Liberty if they watch cable, and they're going to say, what are you talking about? They are used to already watching what they want, when they want, and on the device that they want. And so Topper Station is then the evolution, the next phase, if you will, of Channel 14. It's basically like a Hulu or Netflix of Channel 14 that we can use as an academic tool for our students. And it's centered around a new website called topperstation.com. We have 38 channels that represent elements on campus, like the College of Business or student life or women's basketball, but we also have channels within the community, like we do the City Council live stream, we do Hancock County Commission live, and all of the program that you're used to on Channel 14 you can find there.
You know, another big thing that's kind of been in the news here recently, you know, of course, West Liberty and Wheeling University will be playing in basketball, both men's and women's, this coming weekend, but a partnership between those rival institutions announced recently between the presidents, and that's something that you really haven't seen in the past. You
haven't. I mean, another great feather in the cap for President Greiner when he came here is like, why don't we talk to them? We're not competitors. If you look at the missions of each of those colleges, they're all very different. So why not partner? Why, you know, we're in a small community, we have decreased funding. We need to be partners with these instead of competitors. And so with the new President Favit at Wheeling University and the president at Bethany got together, and they've been working on this for a long time. But it's really a smart idea where if you're, and you often find this way with students who change majors in midstream and they're missing like 3 or 6 hours here and there. If you can't find that at the university that they're enrolled in, if it's one of those 3, and they can find it at one of the other 2, they can go there free of cost and it'll count towards their degree if it's a transferable credit. So a great partnership, and I think that that's just probably the beginning of further partnerships to come. And it's really exciting. As a Wheeling resident, I love seeing the 3 presidents there at that press conference. And hopefully it serves as an inspiration to other big organizations around the valley.
Yeah, anytime people can work together, sometimes you get a much better result for not only the people that are at that particular organization, but you know, perhaps society as a whole.
Yes, definitely.
Well, Jason, I really appreciate you being here. Wish you nothing but the best up there at West Liberty, and always good to see you too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, we need to take a break. When we come back, we'll be finishing up with sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Sunset Motors is the 2019 Ohio Valley leader in Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler, and Ram sales. Get a Ram 4x4 for just $29,980, or lease a Bighorn for only $299 per month. Lease a new Compass Latitude for $239 per month. Now, during the Start Something New sales event, lease a Jeep Cherokee Latitude for just $257 per month, or a Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $309 per month.
You can love where you drive at Sunset.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and I want to start off with some news on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have hired a quarterbacks coach, Matt Canada, who you may remember as being a Pitt offensive coordinator a number of years back. Also spent a little bit of time at LSU, not much. But in any event, has had some very high-scoring and prolific offenses in college football. Also at NC State when Jalen Samuels was there. So he's been around some of these Steelers before. Jalen Samuels at Pitt when he was there, or excuse me, Jalen Samuels at NC State, James Conner at Pitt. and has really been able to utilize those guys. But what Canada is most known for is being able to utilize motion and different sets and tempo with respect to offenses to really have high scoring offenses. So I'm not so much sure this is necessarily a quarterback move as much as it is maybe a little bit of help to Randy Fichtner, the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. The offense obviously struggled this year. No Ben Roethlisberger, but most teams, even when you lose your starting quarterback, they don't struggle the way the Steelers offense did. Basically the last half of the season scoring 7 or 8 touchdowns on offense. So I think it's probably more of a help to him. So I'm eager to see whether it does help the Steelers put more points on the board next year. I think it will. I think it's a great move, and if the Steelers can utilize some more movement pre-snap to get people into bad way on defense, then that could be a really good thing for the Steelers. So we'll keep an eye on that because that defense is shaping up to be pretty good again. WVU basketball, disappointing loss at Kansas State last weekend. Mountaineers moved up to number 12 in the rankings and being talked about a lot, and then dropped that game at Kansas State where they really just looked poor, but bounced back with a great win over Texas in Morgantown, where everything was going right on that particular night. And Mountaineers sit 14 in the rankings now on Saturday afternoon, game against Missouri in the Big 12 SEC showdown. And I really still like the makeup of this team. Still worried about the foul shooting. The offense can go away sometimes, but against Texas, that offense was rolling. And if guys like Emmett Matthews can get going, McCabe can get going a little bit. I feel like down inside, with Schwebe and Culver, they're solid, but those guards have got to produce a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I still like this Mountaineers team an awful lot. Of course, in the NFL playoffs, the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes with the win over the Titans, not real surprising there. And then the 49ers over the Packers was the two I picked, but I didn't expect the 49ers to have the type of holes that those backs were running through. I mean, I felt like I could have run through some of those holes. I mean, I've never seen holes like that in a championship game in the NFL. I mean, they were just gaping holes. So, is that a product of the Packers defense playing poorly or the 49ers? I don't know, but we'll talk more about the Super Bowl next week. That'll be between the Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers. It should be a lot of fun. I mean, I think that great 49ers defense that's holding teams to 10 points a game, that dynamic offense in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and the speed and some of those weapons he has around him, Kelsey at tight end. We'll talk all about that. And another big thing this weekend, golf kind of returns in earnest, so to speak. It's a wraparound season now where the PGA season starts the October before, which I still having trouble getting used to. But this week, the Farmers Open at Torrey Pines, and Tiger Woods in the field, exciting year for golf. The Olympics this year for golf, so a lot to talk about. We'll maybe talk a little bit more about that next week as well, and in the weeks and months leading up to the Masters in April. That's all the time we have this week. I appreciate you joining in. We'll see you again next time on the Jamie Bordas Show.